Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to today's edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called Explosive Negotiations, written by Hansen III. The dock was lifeless. No people, no androids, nothing. I wasn't expecting a celebration of my arrival like last time. I also, however, didn't expect a total absence of life. Only after I made my way down to the last few stairs from my heavy cruiser was it that I saw someone. It was a small human female. She stood there on the dock with the crossed arms, waiting. Her only attempt at gaining my attention was a subtle nod as we made eye contact. As I began making my way towards her, the strained voice of my chief engineer stopped me in my tracks. "Sir, battle damage has been mostly mended. A few autocannons still malfunctioning. My team is assessing the fuel repair strategies to ensure fuel functionality." I nod. "Take a break, Fannet. You deserve it." The engineer smiles at me as he salutes. I turn back to see the woman waiting for me at the dock, seemingly tired of standing. She was now sitting on a small metallic crate, unusual manners for welcoming an official state guest. But I'm not too stuck up. Being at a front line for years makes you slowly kill the snob inside you. I extended my hand as I approached her. She welcomed me with only a few words before she promptly turned her back on me, leaving my extended hand hanging in the air. "Follow me, Prince." Either my human diplomacy 101 course was failed me, or something else was up. The woman and I walked along the length of the dock at a rather uncomfortable pace. I saw boxes upon boxes filled to the brim with ammunition our fleet so desperately needed. Ever since our production capacities were sabotaged in bombing attacks towards the end of the war with the United Human Territories, we relied on this factory for 90% of our supply. As part of the peace deal with gargantuan munitions plants, its entire production capacity and its surrounding star systems had been annexed into the Azar High Kingdom. It was good to see that the populace of the station had humbly accepted their place in our kingdom in exchange for His Excellency's grace and protection. I had a feeling, however, that Commissar Braxton, the director and governor of the plant, wanted to talk about this very deal. As we walked, I could see automated freighters leaving before Frontline. They now had to travel quite the distance. Compared to when the war with the Confederacy began, we were on the cusp of victory. By some estimates, it was only a matter of weeks until the Azar High Kingdom stood as only great power in the entire region of the galaxy. I felt a sense of relief. Soon the dying would stop. Soon I'd be able to return home. With this victory, I could only hope that my father's thirst for expansion had been quenched, at least for a time. The woman led me into a main building of the installation. It was a sight to behold. Smokestacks filled my peripheral vision, spewing smoke so thick and dark that they cast shadows over the entire compound. They surrounded a building tall enough that it seemed like it could scratch the stars themselves. It was moderately decorated at best. No spires, gold or silver decorated facades, or personal greeting visitors at its entrance. It was a solid brick of steel. It was not the most welcoming of places. The woman led me into an elevator. It was barely more than a glorified steel cage, in desperate need of a clean-up, judging from the gunk that had built up in the buttons. As the elevator began moving, I tried my hand at small talk, the one subject in human diplomacy I excelled at. "Nice weather we're having, huh?" I inquired. The woman murmured something. I'm sorry, what?" I asked to clarify. "This is a shithole. It was, is, and will forever be a shithole. Therefore, the weather is always shit," she answered, seemingly avoiding eye contact. "Besides, there is no weather. We are in space." "Well, it's your home. I can't be that bad. I think your attitude affects your perspective heavily," I answered, hoping to get her to continue talking. No luck. All I got was her staring into my soul for the rest of the elevator ride, while the cabin was filled with mechanical hum. I could feel her continue to stare at me, while I made my exit after the elevator reached its destination. As I entered the commissar's office, I could feel a sense of calm wash over me. The decor was more or less what I was accustomed to. There was a carpet with an intricate triangular fractal design. The furniture was mostly made up of brass and steel with wooden accents. There was even a cabinet filled to the brim with drinks. Now this was a place worthy of royalty. At the far end of the office, I saw the commissar standing up and walking around the table to greet me. "Hi, Prince. It is a pleasure to have you." Unsure of what to do, I waited for the commissar to extend his hand before extending my own. He had a tight grip, his nails dug into my hand as he squeezed. He pointed to a chair at the desk. "Take a seat." So I did. as he walked to the cabinet to grab himself a drink.
"May I offer you something?"
he asked as he presented me 2 nondescript clear bottles. Some water would be nice. He poured me my drink and placed it in front of me on the desk without a coaster. It had a strong smell, very unusual. He let himself fall into his chair while holding his beverage and taking a sip. "So, High Commissioner, why have you called me here?" I asked. The Commissioner flashed a smile as he answered,
"It's about our arrangement, High Priest. There are some details I want to discuss with you."
I knew it, but I could for the life of me not understand what there was to discuss. The deal was done and written in blood. "Well, what exactly is there to discuss?" I asked challengingly. "I thought we had a clear deal, Commissioner." The Commissioner leaned onto the table, his eyes piercing my own.
"Exactly, High Prince. We had a clear deal."
I took a sip of water. "Get to the point, Commissioner. If you called me here to play games, then reconsider carefully." The water had a strange taste. It burned a little. The Commissioner chuckled.
"Oh, gladly, Your Highness. I was in contact with the United Human Territories, you see."
"That's strictly forbidden. You're in breach of our agreement," I interrupted. I crossed my arms and legs. "This will have consequences,
Don't interrupt me, please. Let me explain the situation in full before you try to school me. Trust me when I say that I am painfully aware of what is and isn't a breach of your agreement with the UHT,"
he ranted in an unusually loud manner. He paused for a moment, clearing his throat.
"The issue is, Prince, that the people here are fed up with the kingdom's transgressions. We were told that we could live like we used to before the war."
He took a sip of what I now strongly suspected was alcohol, another breach of our agreement.
"This was a plain lie. Time and time again we had your inquisitors visit us and abduct my citizens for interrogation. We never heard from them again. We can only assume that they were dead."
Those were heavy accusations, ones that if an inquisitor would hear of would have dire consequences. Well, I could see his point. Nonetheless, it wouldn't have come to this if they had just adapted to our way of life.
"I will make it quick for you. Your father,"
he attempted to continue. "Do not address His Excellency like that. He is your protector, and as such deserves your respect," I protested, almost out of reflex. The human pointed at my glass of water. I took a sip. It burned my mouth yet again.
"I need you to do me a favor. Drop the formalities, so that we can talk about this like adults. And again, please do not interrupt me,"
he said while he stretched his arms. Braxton opened a small drawer in his table and retrieved one of those damned cigars from it. I never understood why humans were so determined to give themselves cancer. He offered me one. I declined, of course. The Commissioner continued his monologue, slightly muffled by the now-lit cigar in his mouth.
"Now, here is what the leadership of the UHT and I decided would be our course of action, considering those heavy infractions to our agreement."
Braxton took a heavy puff of his cigar before continuing.
"Once the High Kingdom is close to ending the war with the Confederacy, the following will happen. The UHT and the Commissioner of the Enclave of Irask, me, will officially send a list of demands to the High Kingdom. This is where you come in."
I could feel my head pulsing. My heart burned. They dared to betray us accidentally.
"The following will be demanded. The Exclave will be returned to the UHT control."
The Commissioner paused shortly before continuing, looking me directly in the eye, gouging my reaction.
"A neutral corridor between the main territories of the UHT and the Exclave will be established. The High Kingdom and the UHT will negotiate a trade deal concerning continued arms and ammunition delivery to the High Kingdom. You will deliver these demands. Should these demands not be met—"
I smashed my glass into the table.
"Prince Ert!"
the Commissar half-heartedly shouted. I ignored the traitor and moved towards the elevator.
"My friend, I highly advise you listen to me. We can sweeten the deal," he tried to offer.
"I'll only ever listen to you again screaming for help as you are executed," I answered plainly as the elevator doors opened. In an instant, the office was bathed in a bright orange light. Perplexed, I turned to look at the Commissioner. I saw him holding a small remote and staring at something outside through a large window overlooking the dock. I followed his gaze until I saw it myself. A bright orange fireball, as bright as the sun, rose over the dock, the only remnant of what was once my cruiser. Several pieces of metal hit the window of the office, even though it was hundreds of meters above the dock level. I stared at the Commissioner, unbridled rage building inside me.
"I told you to not interrupt me,"
he dared say to me. My crew, I screamed, my voice cracking as I lunged to the traitor's throat. He barely evaded my attack. All the damage I managed to inflict was a small scratch on his cheek. I slammed against the wall behind him. It took me some moments to gather myself after the impact. I turned to see the commissioner aiming a taser at my face. The world went black. I woke up in the very same office, sitting in the very same chair I sat before. A glass was placed in front of me. Need a drink? I heard Braxton say. I looked around and noticed that I was bound to the chair with some cable binders. 2 men stood on either side of me.
Your crew was taken into custody the moment you entered the elevator. They should all be alive and well.
I wiggled my hands in the cuffs, trying to loosen them. The commissioner nodded at one of his men.
I trust that you won't try to rip my throat out again,
he said, as he left the guard cut my cuffs with a knife. What happened to my ship? What did you do? I asked. The commissioner smiled. Well, he dipped his fingers into his drink and massaged his wound with it.
Technically, we didn't set foot in it at all. At least not directly,
he said as he took a swig of his drink.
Say, what caliber were those massive guns along the ship's spine? 200 millimeters?
I nodded in confusion.
Did they serve you well so far? We did provide the ammo, after all. I wanted to know how well they worked.
His question puzzled me. I rubbed my wrists, sore from the cuffs. Decently well. Listen, what are we doing here? I responded, genuinely confused. The commissioner scratched his head.
Are you familiar with the story of Troy? How did the mighty city fall?
He asked with a glint of curiosity in his voice. I dug around my memory for a while. There was a mention of this Troy somewhere in my classes back home. It dawned on me. The ammo. Did you do something to the ammo? The commissioner spat out a little of his drink as he laughed, a little surprised.
Very astute of you, High Prince. Very good. Yes, we did something to the ammo. To every single piece you made us produce for you. All those hundreds of thousands of rounds are equipped with remote detonators, he explained with a mischievous smile. All now resting deep inside the magazines of your battleships, cruisers, destroyers fighting the Confederacy.
I gazed out of the window at the plume of smoke still rising over where my ship once was. A ghostly warning of what power the humans were currently wielding over my entire Azar Navy.
I think we have an understanding of what happens if our demands are not followed,
the commissioner said, awakening me from my daydream, all the while continuing to ruthlessly smile.
I'll make it easier for you to accept our terms. The Azar Kingdom will be able to finish this war of aggression. The Confederacy has not treated the UHT kindly at all, just like the High Kingdom. We don't have any ammunition just waiting to trigger in their ship's magazines. It is only practical for us to wait for defeat. 2 birds with 1 stone and all that.
He paused, raising his eyebrows to see if I was following and taking another puff of his cigar.
Here is where you come in, Prince. You seem to be the only one giving a damn about your subjects. That has not gone unnoticed by the UHT, and as such has deemed you the only worthy successor to His Excellency after the war.
I feared what the commissioner was about to say. My stomach churned.
Your father will abdicate after this war and name you successor. You will, however, diminish powers compared to your father. You will forge a high kingdom into a constitutional monarchy under the guidance and protection of the UHT.
What the commissioner was talking about would be deemed an instantly executable capital offense in different circumstances. Considering my situation, however, I decided to let him continue uninterrupted.
This will be done to ensure that another personality, like your father, will not be able to plunge an entire region of the galaxy into war yet again. You seem to value their lives at least a little, and you seem tired of the wars. This is your chance to bring peace to them.
I couldn't help but chuckle before answering. You put me in quite a situation here. I'm not sure my father will accept this. I'm pretty sure he'll have me executed before I even finish reading the demands to him. The commissioner put out his cigar and prepared to answer.
I know, Ert. Just remind him frequently that he will lose his navy and doom untold millions of his subjects. I doubt that he'll care about the people. Just remind him that he won't win this war without the navy. The UHT is ready for military action in Azar territories if he is indeed insane enough to not see that he is beaten, he explained, quickly adding, and just so you know, if you accept our proposal, you'll be under our guard until your father's death. Human guards will be assigned to you. Keep in mind that if we don't hear back from you within a week from now, however, we will have no choice but to go forward with the detonation of the ammunition.
I sat in silence, in contemplation. One question lingered in my mind. One I wished I didn't have to address. I knew my siblings more than most others, even my father, and still, I couldn't predict how they would react to such demands. And what about my siblings? They all have a better claim to the throne than I do. I'm the youngest. There are 34 in the line before me. The commissioner stood up and approached me, placed a hand on my shoulder, and motioned me to stand. So I did.
I'm sure most can be persuaded to give up that claim. Those that do not, well...
I nodded in silent understanding, as much as it had hurt me to do so. I have no choice but to accept, Commissioner, for my people's sake. He handed me a glass of alcohol from his desk and grabbed himself one as well. He held his glass up high. His characteristic smile had morphed into a natural expression.
For the future, Excellency.
I hesitated for a moment, swirling the liquid in my hand. To the Azure people, I answered, and downed the entire glass at once. Like my decision, it burned in my stomach. As I was led on board the UHT ship en route to my father's court, I collected my thoughts. This was certainly not how I imagined my visit would go. It has left me changed man. Some of my siblings and friends would have surely called Braxton's tactics dishonorable and cowardly. I would have had to disagree. They were certainly cunning and ruthless, but effective. He was achieving something great for his people with the means he had, while trying to avoid bloodshed. I had a hard time judging him for it. I would have done the same. These are skills, I'm now sure, I will have to master in the years to come to secure my people's coming freedom and stability, as well as my life. End of story. I'd greatly like to thank our Tier 5 channel members, Casper Arnholtz, John Creighton, Manatharia, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.